Some nights I stay up, cashing in my bad luck. Some nights I call it a draw.
So Wired for Work is a program that we've been working on for about 15 months to help people with the transition from their academic world to the world of commerce. So whether they're just leaving school and wanting to go into work, or leaving university and wanting to go into work, for some of them that's quite intimidating. They don't know where to start. So we found that in one side there was the people who were daunted by the whole prospect of going into work and didn't know how to start, and they wanted to have an edge over others to be able to get the job they wanted. And over on the other side, we found there were employers who said quite a few of the candidates that came to see them, either for interviews or for internships or for work itself, just really had very little concept of what the commercial world and the disciplines of that were all about. So, no right, no wrong, but we just thought that there was an opportunity to create a safe environment where we could get a number of speakers to come in and help them with that transition. The route to where we are today was really that we started with doing some formal research from students of 17, students at university, 19. We had a focus group with people who'd been in work a couple of years and who'd been to university and who expressed the things they wish they'd known before they even started. So we talked to them, talked to employers, saying, well, what are the shortcomings of some of the candidates that come and see you? What would help them get further during the interview process? What would help them in those early weeks and months when they're at work? So we talked to them, and we talked to parents. Some parents a bit anxious about their children, some parents wishing that their children to have the best opportunity for having probably spent lots of money on their education and wishing them to have the best chance of the next stage. So that was the first stage of creating So Wired for Work. I guess really the next thing was talking and trying to find the relevant sort of speakers who would be able to come and talk on the course. So we've ended up with a really interesting group of specialists in certain areas who will be able to deliver anything from 1 hour to an all-day session on a specific topic. The plan really was to follow the findings of the research which was done. The first question that they came back with, the first comment was, look, I really have no idea what I want to do. And you can understand that, that's perfectly reasonable. Some people absolutely know they want to be a vet, some people know they want to work at Goldman Sachs or Freshfields, or they want to work in a certain charity, but most people really, it's all pretty fuzzy. So that was the first outcome. Second was, once I do have some idea, I have no idea where to find the type of firm that I'd like to work for. And they, bearing in mind, I think 52% of the population now are working in firms of certainly less than 250 people. So there's a lot of small firms. So to find the right firm that you want to work for is really difficult. So that was the second question. How do I even find the sort of firm that I'd like to work for? And the third was, how do I get an edge? How do I get an edge to get into that firm? I want to beat the next guy. So the course, the 5-day course really runs through that. It starts off with really finding out a little bit more about yourself, you finding out more about yourself, so that you can understand the types of roles within commerce that would be suitable for you. That's sort of day one. Day two is, based on the research we got back, is that they want more time spent on career analysis, the types of businesses that are out there. And I think many said that they had at school been so focused on their exams and sport and all this stuff that they hadn't spent enough time or hadn't been given enough time to spend time on careers and all the range of options. And as I've been around various schools, it is just an incredibly difficult job to be a good careers advisor, I think, at a school, because so many jobs are changing all the time. Commerce is changing all the time, so it's very difficult for them to give that input. So they asked for a day on the whole careers side, so we've teamed up with a really interesting firm where a lot of the information is online, and so they can do some research on the second day with us online, and we can help and guide them. There'll be lots and lots of stuff which they'll do when they've left us in their own time. Day 3 is all about what we call your brand, because they have to think of themselves as a brand for the fact that they will probably, many of them will move firms a reasonable amount in their career. So they have got to represent their sort of package and their skills and their attributes probably a number of times. Or many of them may well be doing multiple jobs at any one time. So they will work on a portfolio basis. And so they need to be thinking of their brand and how that comes across to the different people they want to try and interact with commercially all the time. So we do a session, the whole day is called Your Brand, but it deals with everything from business etiquette, your CV, how you present yourself, and networking, incredibly important subject. How are they going to network and successfully network? So that's all in day 3. Day 4 is really focused, which we've done, built a day with Henley Business School, is on being an entrepreneur. And that we remind them is not that they're going to be on The Apprentice or Mr. Sugar's program or Lord Sugar's program. That's not what it's all about. It's about whether you're working in Unilever, in a family business, in a charity, even a government department, or you set up your own new business, you've probably got to have some of the mindsets of an entrepreneur would. You've got to be bringing creative ideas to whoever your firm or employer is. And these are good disciplines that you should have wherever you are in terms of adding value to your business. So not sitting there as a passenger and just hoping work comes down the pipe. You've got to be starting to add value and think of value you can bring to your firm. So we have a whole day on You're an Entrepreneur. The last day is really wrapping it all up and saying, okay, you've learnt about yourself, you've learnt about the types of areas you may be starting to think of going into and where you've got to do research. You've got to starting to think about your brand, how you're going to network. You've got to think about how you're going to apply to these firms. You've got to think about your diary management, your time management, and but how you come across is pretty important, very important. So we work with a specialist consultancy on the last day, which may film you and as to how you come across, so you can learn about yourself there. And then lastly is your launch pad. So you'll come away from 5 days with a whole range of things you've got to start doing. So it could be, do you know what, I really need to do an advanced Excel course. It could be, I've got to buy a diary. It could be, I need to research the mining industry because I think that could be really interesting. Or it could be, gosh, I'm really interested in the sports industry, but there are probably about 70 different roles within the sports industry, from marketing to finance to sales to being a groundsman to being a fitness psychologist to being a masseur. There's millions of different industries roles within the sports industry. So I need to start sifting through which ones could be suitable for me, what education I may need to do. Maybe I need to develop my skills further in specialist skills. So they'll go away with a whole range of things on what we call their launch pad. End of the week, and it's a very safe environment for them to be able to do this and share anxieties and share ideas. It'll be fun as well, but very full on. And then we do, about 9 weeks of following up with them, so that instead of leaving here on a high and great, we chase them up. So did you do that? Have you joined LinkedIn? Have you joined some groups? Which ones? So that they just feel a little bit more comfortable about the world ahead, feel more confident to go to interviews, understand the sort of things that are on the other side. Because you've got to have stories to tell. Don't just do a grey CV and ping it off to people. That's going to get you nowhere. You'll need to have different CVs for different industries, different CVs for different firms. You need to do your research before you go into any firm. Catch their eye. And that's fun. And it's just so logical, all of this stuff. And that's what's been quite interesting about creating the venture, is that all of this is logic. There's nothing unique, special about what we're bringing to the table. But what we are doing is, I believe, bringing the wisdom, collective knowledge of lots of different people and tailoring it to this generation coming through, who are a really exciting generation. They've got such energy and they're so much more comfortable with probably the older generations. They've got such good, they're so tech savvy, most of them. So it's, they're so mature in some senses, and yet they, my perception is they really welcome getting wisdom from older generations because it'll give them an edge. Who's it for is an interesting question, because we started off really trying to focus on people leaving school and who were in two minds about whether to go to university or not, or people who just, they think, I need to start thinking about commerce anyway, even if I'm going to university. So we were a bit worried initially about they've got to be in the same year groups. And pretty soon we realized that's absolutely irrelevant. As long as you're hungry to learn about this stuff, I don't think it matters whether you are 18 or 21. So school leavers or university leavers are fine. And the only criteria is that you're keen to come on it. That if mummy or daddy are just sending you on it, it's not right or wrong, but it's probably not for us. We just want people who are enthusiasts and go, do you know what, I really want to learn about this stuff. So that's the criteria. I'm not interested in what exam results you've got or whether you're dyslexic or not. It's great. As long as you want to come on it, we'd love to have you. Who are the speakers? Well, you can see from the website who the speakers are, and I think we've got a really interesting range of specialists in certain areas. So I'm really proud of the fact of the sort of people who want to lend their brand and come along and speak. And when we did the pilot, they all loved it. They loved sharing this stuff with these young adults. So the website gives an update on who the speakers are. One of the things that we found that we thought was missing was that we could have all these speakers, all this wisdom, but we needed to have some links into real businesses to find out the real issues that they're finding in candidates coming through. What are the shortcomings? What guidance would they give? They see so many people coming through, and they can give some guidance. So we've teamed up some really interesting businesses like Bowden, Pret a Manger, Hiscox, and Willis, and Boodles, and Berry Brothers, and one charity which is really interesting, the British Exploring Society. A headhunting firm, really interesting in the city. They give us lots of real data and information about what's going on in the employment world, called Hillman Saunders. And we may get a few more in due course. These are really progressive businesses, and they've welcomed what we're doing. So, really proud of having those relationships with them. And the relationships will produce different things for different people. For some they may be able to give internships, some they may just come along and speak one evening, some said we might help with their academy that they in turn sponsor. So delighted to have those relationships. What are the plans for this venture? And it's a young business. We've done a pilot. We've just done a two morning session at Wellington College, who they were one of the schools when we went round who were brave enough, I think, to say, we do a lot for people going to university, but we probably don't do enough for people who choose not to go to university, and we want to do more for those people. We want to give them more of an insight into the commercial world. So could you come in and do a session? They said to the lower sixth. So we did that last week. It's 220 of them for 2 mornings, which was really interesting. We picked 2 modules and presented. And we're doing another one at Radley next week. And we've got about 6 other schools who've contacted us and said, this is interesting, we'd like to know a bit more about it and maybe come in and talk to us. So we may do some stuff in schools. Ultimately, what would we like to do? I would really, and all of the speakers would love to take it into, or make it available for people who really cannot afford it, and where going on something like this would make a real difference to their life. So whether they're from disadvantaged backgrounds or whoever, that would be really important goal for this, to take it to, make it available for people where it would make a real difference. So whether we get charitable contributions to just fund some people to come through it, or whatever, that's really for 2014. So those are the sort of things ultimately which we like to do. A number of people have said, some firms have said, do you know what, maybe we should send our new recruits on your course before they start. Somebody said, look, you should bring it to this type of group or that group, because they would really value it. So in a sense, it'll run its own course, but I'm pleased with the types of speakers we've got. I'm pleased with the types of firms that have given us their support. Pleased with the way the pilot went and the testimonials on there, that they learnt stuff which they say they don't learn at school. And that's not the school's fault. It's the schools are so focused on academic and pastoral stuff that sometimes the commercial world, some of them have said, look, we don't have enough connections into the commercial world. We have old boys who can come in and give speeches, but maybe a really tailored course for people wanting to get into the commercial world would be really helpful. So I think we've got some of the right ingredients. And so that's, we're in our first year, so it'll take a while, I'm sure, to build its brand and to build credibility from people saying, yes, I'd really like to go on this course. So whether it's push from schools, push from parents, or pull from students hearing about it, I think it'll be a combination of all of that.